Indeed, you're listening to Salam Media, and this is the mid morning talk with me, your host, Maria Mia. And yes, it's afternoon, so have a good afternoon. It's 12 minutes past the hour of noon, and we are now educating ourselves to learn about I don't know if it's a new branch of psychology. That's what we're going to learn, but we are going to learn all about ethnopsychology. What is ethnopsychology? The history of ethnopsychology, and to tell us all about this field of psychology, we're going to be joined by ethnopsychologists as well as counselor and therapist and facilitator Aadila Pretorius, and she's the director of Phoenix Life Improvement. So let's welcome Aadila to Mid Morning Talk. Good afternoon, Aadila, and welcome to Mid Morning Talk.
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers. Thank you for the listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Wa alaikum salam, and peace and blessings to you as well. And so tell me, this is a fascinating aspect to psychology, ethnopsychology, because the more I'm reading it, this is actually to better understand a person. You need to understand their mindset, and also, yes, how we perceive our reality, and what defines us is our value system, our beliefs, our traditions, who we are, our family, our culture, our cultural practices, our religious, our way of life. These factors influence who we are, the type of person we are, also how we perceive our reality and situations. And I'm so pleased there is this branch that's acknowledging this, because once we understand this, we can be at a better point in terms of offering advice, counsel, and assistance to somebody who would require therapy.
Absolutely, and there's a dire need for more psychologists or ethnopsychology practitioners, to come to the fore and to claim our rightful place, in the mental health industry, exactly because of the points that you have raised. Because ethnopsychology in itself, as the word says, it is comparative study of different cultural and ethnic groups, and the main thing is that we do allow for our ethnicity to come through especially your spiritual experiences, your religious beliefs, because all of that factors an impact on how you experience life and experience the world in essence.
So just tell us briefly, what does ethnopsychology entail?
I'm registered, for example, with EPASA, which is the Ethnopsychology Association of South Africa, as well as the Hypnotherapy Association of South Africa. Now, what we study is we do study abnormal psychology, similar to the clinical or the counseling psychologists, where you learn of the different psychological disorders, the psychosis, the different treatments, and of course, the signs, the symptoms. And when a client or a patient comes to you and they say, I have been told I am bipolar, so you know exactly where they're coming from. So we do study that. And then we also study critical psychology that criticizes abnormal psychology, specifically for the fact that, as ethnopsychology practitioners, we do recognize that there is an alternate sources that can influence our behavior and how we experience this world. And so that is really the main difference. Obviously, we also study counseling skills. We study holistic life coaching. Then we also do one of our major subject, of course, is hypnotherapy. That is the major tool that we use in our therapeutic processes to help the person to create new pathways in the brain and to alter the behavior, etc. And we also, of course, study African traditional medicines, which is all part of the holistic approach when we deal with a person. So we do understand that Western psychology, of course, works on general statistics of outcomes of human behavior, but for us, as in abnormal psychology, how they would say that depression looks the same among all cultures, we also say, well, spirituality is true within all cultures and all religions. And if we talk, for example, of demon possession or jinn possession, in Islamic terms, some will, I know many non-Muslims will refer it as guides and these type of things. These are all alternate sources that we believe as ethnopsychologists can affect a person's mental health and well-being. We talk about jadoo and black magic, hasad, which is your severe jealousy. Those are all energies that we believe can affect how a person functions and their mental health and their mental state. So that is
So Adila, I'm so pleased that you raised this because many people are inflicted, and that's the reality. And it says in the Quran, I mean, the presence of jinn is there in terms of this, and then you hear community that would dismiss, and somebody who inflicts it, it affects their life, it affects their mental capacity, the mental functioning. And yes, it needs to be treated in an alternate way, but mainstream, I find that mainstream psychologists, counselors, and that they don't acknowledge this. They're looking for reasons. There multiple personality disorder, bipolar, schizophrenia. So you find alternate labels, but you don't then really connect with the person that you're offering therapy to, because you don't understand this mindset. And the fact that as a counselor now, you understand what is sihr, you understand the fact that what is a possession, what you inflicted with this, you're going to be able to be in a better position to guide somebody through this, to assist them. Because at the end of the day, I'm told that even when you inflicted with this, initially you're at a very vulnerable time for this to inflict you. So even after you cured by probably going to somebody who does ruqya, or somebody who visits an army land, that thereafter, I think a a therapy such as the cognitive behavioral therapy or psychoanalytical therapy would assist in terms of visiting back. What was the initial trauma that actually caused you to be in this vulnerable space? Am I correct in my understanding of this?
Many of the factors that, yes, that what we do is that once we determine that there is more at play than just perhaps the factors within the person's life, of the environment, people that they deal with, and that type of thing, that there is in fact sihr or that has been done, which is we call that, of course, black magic. If that type of thing is then determined that this is present, I normally personally refer to a person that specializes in ruqya, our imams that do specialize in that. And of course, we know that when sihr or black magic has been done, there is normally what we call the intentionality to do that to somebody. There is the certain mantras they would read, and then there's the certain action they will take, be it the tying of knots and blowing of knots, which the Quran itself speaks of. So obviously we know that the people that practice the ruqya, and if we ourselves can also learn that, it all depends on a person's own spiritual knowledge, religious knowledge, but it's always good to have somebody that is a specialist in that field, to give you that safety net. Because it's very important that when a patient or a client is affected, the psychological process and how to deal with it is very, very important, because it takes a very strong mental process to then come out of it, in combination of the ruqya treatment, etc. But a point I would like to make is that, yes, beyond that main difference between Western psychology and ethnopsychology is the fact, my apologies, is the fact that we also, of course, look at life as a process. with specifics. When a patient comes to us, we look at what is the symptom in that person's life at the moment, so that we can see how does that correlate and go back to initial sensitizing events that that person had in his or her lives. So yes, on the one hand, we consider the spiritual or alternate sources that can be affecting a person, but then we also look at taking personal responsibility to see where you are at. What are your life's lessons? Who are the mirrors in your life at present? In other words, what is the symptom? So that once we understand the symptom, we can see where previously have the same type of experiences occurred, so that we can work you back to the initial sensitizing events, because what you resist will persist until you learn the lesson. So it's very important that as ethnopsychology practitioners, we have a broad scope of, we are extremely holistic in our approach, in the sense that we also then, of course, use hypnotherapy as our main source of treatment, in the sense that exactly what we explained is when you can access and go back to the initial sensitizing event as to where the pain point is, and you can give release and you can release the emotional content, that is when we can create new pathways in the brain. And then, of course, that can lead to behavioral change and, how the overall well-being of that person.
Aadila, I'd like to continue the discussion. Please, let's take a short break and then we'll continue.
Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies, from exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal. There is no substitute for quality.
At this time of trial and worry, the blessings of charity are the ideal means to avoid calamity and despair. The Al-Imdad Foundation gives you the opportunity to sponsor a share in a borehole in South Africa for just 1,000 Rand and provide what the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, called the best form of charity. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back to Mid Morning Talk with me, your host Mariam Mia, and my apologies. We seem to have a difficult, rather scratchy line when speaking to ethnopsychologist Aadila Pretorius. I've got her now via telephone, the old-fashioned telephone, and let's see if it is clearer indeed. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Aadila. Are you there? Sister Aadila, can you hear me? Let me just check with Nazreen. Do we have Sister Aadila back on? In fact, but indeed a fascinating aspect of psychology, ethopsychology. For me, very, very important in terms of psychology is a bridge between Western psychology and the ways of the African people or people in general. All of us have specific problems that relate to our various ways of life and belief systems, and thus it's almost impossible for psychologists to understand and treat a person unless they have training in both fields with a wider view of different religions and cultures. And I think, Sister Aadila, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, now we clearer. I think on the live line, it was on the StreamYard platform, it was a bit shaky. So now we can hear you all good and all clear. So, Sister Aadila, if somebody comes to you for consult, do you then first take a history of the patient in terms of, I know normally at the traditional counsel or psychologist, you'd focus on your difficulties, the reason why what is the issue here, why you've reached out and require therapy or counseling and that. But as a ethopsychologist, do you first then also find out more about their family background, their belief systems, the culture, their values
Yes.
in terms of then assisting a person holistically?
Yes, absolutely. What we do is that when a person comes for their first session, we call it the intake session. They will obviously fill in the necessary forms, and on the forms itself, we've already questions that we ask so that we can open the conversation. So what we first do is we look at the symptoms producing events. So we try to uncover and discover what has brought the person into the room. And then as we then unpack, we also then go further into the history of the person, their upbringing, what happened, what are certain events, and also your chronological from birth, what was the relationship with the siblings, the mother, the father, all these types of things. Because if you want to work holistically, you need to get a holistic view. And the more the person then divulges what is going on, where did they come from? Because remember, as a therapist, you need to enter their map of the body. And to do that, you need as much information as you can get from the person. Because once you have that, then you can determine what are the different tools that particular person would need to help alleviate those symptoms and get through, to behavioral change and, to create new pathways. And of course, to do the necessary healing and release of the suppressed emotion.
Absolutely. And then you're better placed to understand the triggers, because sometimes a trigger is, within a cultural or religious context. And once you get the background, you better appreciate and understand that trigger in terms of then providing that person with coping mechanisms.
Yeah, and it's not as an NLP practitioner. We talk about anchors and triggers. So in that sense, we have a specific process to look at what are the certain anchors that was set in a person's life that we need to collapse, to create new behaviors, so that that particular trigger is being triggered or anchor is being triggered, that there's a different response. But I think also what you possibly are alluding to is our different paradigms in how it was formed, because that determines how we experience life and how we see life. So it's very, very important that you get a full picture of the person. What, like you say, certain triggers, what are their paradigms, how do they see the world? Because there's different processes of helping a person changing their beliefs. And that can only come about if they can understand the meaning of their experiences. Because when you can derive the wisdom out of a wound,
when you understand your experiences better, that's when the meaning of it can change. In other words, instead of holding on to resentment, hatred, is to ask, okay, from this person, I've learned to stand up for myself. I've learned self-respect. So, in other words, the people that press your buttons, and the experiences that you see continuously repeat itself. What you resist will persist until you learn the lesson. You will see that those people that hurt you the most are normally your biggest teachers. They are the ones who help you to reclaim parts you've disowned of yourself. So it's all these different approaches that we holistically take in order to help the person.
Sister Adila, this has been a fascinating discussion, and I'm sure many here feel encouraged in terms of this type and branch of psychology, in terms of seeing a person as a whole, in terms of what defines them, because ultimately it is your belief system and your values that define who you are and how you experience the world in relation to that. So when you're having difficulties, it's important that you seek assistance from a professional who would then frame this and see you in that light, in terms of providing you with the necessary therapy and support system, and as you say, just realign your anchors and open up a new behavioral pathways as in that way. So thank you so much for joining us and providing us with insight into this field of psychology.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and giving us all the chance just to allow people to understand there are other alternatives that people can look at with people with professional training and background in the particular field, and there is help.
And I love what you said in you. Well, let's leave it there, because help is available, and that is Sister Aadila Pretorius, and she is an ethnopsychologist, and she is a director of Phoenix Life Improvement. Shukran, may you be under the mercy and protection of the Almighty.
Jazakallah khairan. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Amen. Let's go for a short break. And yes, we're going to now get feedback and revisit the students of Red Hill Independent School, in terms of they had a panel discussion. Well, panelists were invited to the school in terms of them better understanding and how to